Alright, hello everyone. Today I really wanted to talk about this drama over here with this May 26th incident. Richie Sinclair has been nerfed, the king has finally fallen, and the Mao branch adept Faust is also planned to be nerfed, and then they reverted it. So that is actually one of the things that's going to be of discussion today. Overall, this situation ultimately goes down to one thing. P Moon absolutely sucks at putting their information up front. As a person that's played a lot of gacha games, right, you really have to get it right the first time. Otherwise, you invite a lot of misinformation claims and then people get angry. Especially when we talk about compensation. You want to add more is okay, but you cannot take away what you have given because otherwise people get mad. And in gacha games, you kind of don't want your audience to get mad. All right. So this is just something that gacha games have to deal with, but not any regular games. It's just how the gacha game community works with. I don't really know how else to explain it to people who have never tried or experienced a gacha game community before. Basically, there's going to be a lot of people who will get angry if rewards of any way are reduced, removed, or affected in some way because of something, and so you will see people get very angry, especially with nerfs. All right, nerfs are one of the things that gacha games just don't do. They avoid it as much as possible. In fact, some gacha games only stick to buffs. In fact, some PvE games nowadays, they only dare to buff things, right? They don't dare to nerf things. Otherwise, if they nerf things, they make people angry. And yeah, people don't like it when their favorite toys are being nerfed. And right now, what Pimon is doing is they are nerfing two of the best toys in the game, Red Sheet Sinclair and Mao Branch Adept Faust. With these two as a combo, you can get 99 Rupture onto a single enemy in one turn. How it works, you get Resonance with Sinclair, and Resonance from Sinclair targets highest HP. Guess what? Faust is the highest HP. So Faust gets it. Faust has a 4 coin 3-2, which she can trigger every single turn with her gut skill. I forgot to mention that in my final review, but she is so efficient that she can generate a 3-2 as much as she wants. She is just that crazy. All right. So she is an insanely crazy unit that can do a 4 coin skill that can always do this, and she can even attack twice because she can trigger that 3-2 even twice. Right. Very insanely powerful character, and she can basically apply a crap ton of rupture potency alongside her death rights, which help her generate rupture count, making her an absolute demon of a character. Very insane unit, and I highly recommend everyone get her as of now because she's not getting nerfed. All right, she is the Ringi-san of this season. All right, so with that in mind, basically Faust 99 potency with combination with Red Sheet Sinclair and basically destroys the entire game very easily. Let's talk about Red Sheet Sinclair though. Red Sheet Sinclair is a unit that is extremely hard to balance because this unit always gives the highest HP target a bunch of potency. And if you do not limit that in some way, you will end up with a situation where you will hit 99 in one turn, and we hit that situation immediately, right? So yeah, that is not going to fly here. They basically went for the option of nerfing the character. There is another option, of course, where they just ignore the character, as in they acknowledge that this combination is extremely powerful and they just leave it. And then they look to never do a mistake like this again, and then they eventually power creep this thing by using something OP later on, which some gacha games do. But in this case, they decided let's target it directly. I know a few reasons why. First off, the battle pass has a WoW ego for Sinclair, and with the existence of Red Sheet, it means that we will never deploy that ID ever again for that ego, which means we will never use the ego, we will never see the animations of the ego, and we will never see the animations of the new unit at all. So those three things are going to hurt the ideal situation of Kim Ji-hoon, where he wants people to see all of this cool stuff that they develop. If not, then all of this would be wasted. So Red Sheet is a giant wall there already. And Red Sheet is always going to be a menace because he just gives so much potency to targets, and it restricts greatly the amount of stuff that you need to look out for in this case. It's a lot easier to develop stuff in a game when you don't have to worry about the shit from the past. So they are definitely going to hurt him because this character cannot be this strong. Otherwise, everything must be balanced around him all the time, right? So with that in mind, now Faust, I talked about her. You can spam this like crazy. They want to nerf her. Then they mentioned the Ring Yisang incident. For reference, the Ring Yisang incident is basically the incident where Ring Yisang was released. He was really, really strong, an insanely strong character. Even his MD was ridiculously strong. And they wanted to nerf him. They offered compensation. After that, the compensation was rejected, taken back. And the promise was basically broken as well over there. And then they basically just minorly adjusted him to not trigger every mirror dungeon ego gift, and they also made his reuse coin condition marginally harder. It didn't really do shit for him. He basically 100% reused the coin. All right. So Ring Yisang was touched down a little bit, and then after that given to us, and it's why he's one of the most hated units in the game. And then this character, Faust, is also the hated unit of this game, of course. Right? Ring Yisang, Faust, you are basically both the same person, but Talisman Sinclair, unfortunately, is not Ring Yisang. He is getting gutted because of balancing issues for the future and because of the future 3-star Sinclair that is going to be coming. All right. So Rishi Sinclair gets absolutely destroyed. He becomes a resource-owned character, and his resonance over here, his talismans, now he no longer gives any talismans. It's just all gone, which means that he drops from, at minimum, 4 resonance times to 8 talisman, and that gives him 8 potency to the ally on hit. Now he gives +1, so he lost 7 extra potency given to the ally. This still gives Faust an additional +1 for everything, so it's still not horrendous, but it's also a far cry from what he was before. Really sad sight to see. And then the talisman itself was hit with several nerfs. One is the divide by 2, so that you can't apply a shit ton of rupture potency. It's always divided. And then they also add consume 1 extra rupture count on the target to inflict it. Yep. So it's just a shit status, and you need to deploy the talisman Sinclair in order to get it. Just forget about it for now, guys. It's just totally gone. There's gonna be a new Sinclair to be used with the new WoW ego for sure. And even then, there's still a Deviat Sinclair which you can kind of fall back onto if you really desperately need a rupture one. Alright. So after that, Heisho Pack Faust, their nerf was that they wanted to make her 20 plus Tianju, so you can take about 3 to 5 turns to go and trigger it. That would have been totally fine, made her basically a slightly stronger Mao ID, just like Ryoshu, but slightly stronger. And that was good enough to me. Alright, I think that this is way more balanced than the spam, the skill 3-2 every single turn, but this is a gacha game. Once you release a unit like this and you want to nerf the unit, but you're nerfing both at the same time, it's very, very scary and definitely not something that one should do without a good plan or a good amount of resources that you're planning to give up for this kind of plan. Alright, so next thing here is the Mao Branch Adept Faust ID level and uptie tier reset. For this one, basically, this is something that is given whenever they try to nerf something. Basically, they drop it to uptie 1 level 1, and they give you all of the resources that you use to level up to whatever you leveled it up to. So if you went to uptie 3, you get the uptie 2 and the uptie 3 resources, and that's it. You don't get the uptie 4 one, right? So it's always like that every single time they do a nerf. They've done a nerf twice with the Yisang and this Faust that has caused such an incident, but there are others that they did change, like LCCB Ryoshu, that didn't really cause too much of an incident because that one was a bug, right? This one was unfortunately a bit of a miscalculation on that part. So this nerf would have been basically them fixing the problem after they have released it, which is basically a nerf in gacha gaming terms. So very, very scary. Must make sure you provide sufficient compensation for this. All right. Okay. After that, you will get the Sinclair shards as well, the ego shards you use to uptie to maybe uptie 4. You get 1300 lunacy for the Red Sinclair adjustment. However, some people might see this as not enough because Red Sinclair is actually such an important character for the Rupture team that his complete gutting from his +8 potency to his +1 potency might be not enough compensation, and it's very hard to judge value of compensation compared to the value of the unit itself, just because Project Moon is just not comfortable with gacha gaming terms, except for the currency stuff and all this. But basically, when shit like nerfs happen, you kind of have to compensate for the loss in some major way if it's a very important unit and to appease some gamers. Otherwise, they will just keep complaining. But you also need to acknowledge that if they are not a significant chunk, sometimes you don't have to do it. There will always be angry people, and if they are not your main audience, then you don't bow to them. But if they are, then okay, give them a big lump and then just call it. All right, or even just backtrack and just say sorry, we made a mistake, we will not do it again, and we will keep the character like that. So if they just did any of these other options, the drama would have ended here already, right? But it did not end here, which is very, very sad to see. All right, so the Mao Branch Adept Faust adjustment compensation, you get 3-star guaranteed Deca extraction ticket, and you also get the Season 6 Ego Shark crates times 300. This one, you can get it before May 29th, 2025, which is actually going to be something that a lot of people will cry about. And they are not wrong for crying about it, because this is the information as given by Project Moon on their first post. And what's a gamer gonna do, like, if they can't trust the post of the company of the game that they are playing, right? Like, okay, if this is going to happen, then maybe I can pull the unit before this time and then go and get this character and also get all of this loot over here. That's like a massive amount of good stuff, right? I like this unit. I also think she's super OP, and then I can get all this good stuff. Now that looks like value. It is not greed, it is the information given, and then I will just see the opportunity to try and take it. Then yeah, some people are going to try and take it, and then after that, P-Moon decides we will not be giving out the compensation. Wow, that is just an absolute gut punch, because this is just baiting people with misinformation. If it's not a law-breaking thing, which I really have no clue about, it's definitely a PR absolute disaster. You just broke a lot of trust with a lot of people. Why do you even post this if you're not going to follow through? Exactly, yeah. And the worst part about this is that they've done this before with the Ring Yisang incident, and they didn't fix a damn thing because it happened the exact same way, right? We move on to the second post here. They put the 3-star guaranteed Deca extraction ticket here and the Ego Shards over here, and they will be given out on May 29th schedule update. So remember what I said about giving a big amount of refund so that people won't have to feel a major loss here. They basically said that they will refund all tickets, paid lunacy and free lunacy, used for the Heisho pool, which is absolutely worth it. In fact, it's basically giving you enough stuff that you could basically go and get yourself another talisman and a Faust. This is a full refund. You get a Faust still owned, you get all of the resources used to pull the Faust, and that would let you get another talisman Sinclair. It's so insanely worth it. But this only applied to people who pulled the unit before the announcement, which is at 2605. However, you can still get the reward if you pull before the May 29th schedule update over here. Now this part is down because you should have put this down here. Like, the compensation information, that is compensation information. So put all the good stuff at the bottom, because people are going to read here and assume that you replace the reward. The reason why I'm saying this is because my friend came to me and told me, hey, why did they change the date here from this one? Did they post this just to scam me? And I was like, there's no way. Then I looked, I was like, oh shit, what? And then I read this for like 2 to 3 hours because I was recording the video, and then I noticed, wait a minute, it's written over here, and then I had to re-record the video again. So yeah, that's how I found this thing over here. It's definitely a reading issue, but also a formatting issue. P-Moon, please make your shit easier to read, not just a wall of text like this, because, or at least make sure the summary has all of the important information. Really. Okay, all right. So this additional reward of refunding, I believe, was to just appease the people who were complaining that the compensation was not enough. So, okay, now we will go through with our paying of the sum. Basically, we will give you this amount, and we will also give you the previous promised amount, and then we'll call it here. We'll get the nerfs done, the balance will be fixed. We promise never to do this again. And that could be the end of this story, and yet it is also not the end of this story. Okay, so we are going now to the next section over here, which is the emergency update. Take note, the emergency update was before this thing hit 1000 negative reviews. It was around, I think, 400 negative reviews when we hit this emergency update. This was done from 6:10 to 7:23 to 8:37 my time. All right, so this was within hours of each other, and we got this emergency one. At this point, maybe they've already uploaded the translated version, but for now, we do have the translated version because of Fel from the Project Moon Community Hub, who did a translation of all of the stuff over at this emergency post over here, right? Okay, so we will now be reverting Faust nerfs. Remember how I said if they just full backtracked or just given the big lump sum and then followed through, we would actually be done? Well, they decided to do that, but both at the same time. So they agreed to do the lump sum, and then they said, never mind, we will just take it all back. So yeah, what the hell? Like, that's actually crazy. Because I don't think I've seen a gacha game do the wibbly wobbly like this before. Where, okay, here, and then, okay, additional here, and then, nope, never mind, we take it all back. Sorry, forget about it. Because if you show the dog, okay, that's like a rude thing. But if you show someone if you show someone something that they want, like you show them a steak that they wanted to eat, and then you add another steak on top of that, and then after that you just took it away, that would kind of suck, wouldn't it? Like, oh, where's my steak going? Exactly, where is the steak going? Because he just took it all away, and then he just gave you the original one that you got earlier on, the Faust steak, and you're just gonna have to accept that. And well, it is still a good steak. She's still insanely OP. It's just that you offer me such a massive amount of steak that I kind of wish I had that massive amount of steak. And that lies the issue. They showed too much shit that they were willing to give, and then they took it all away. So PR wise, they should not have shown the second post, or they should have followed through the second post and ended it right there. All right. And then the other thing they could have done was just backtrack immediately as the second post and then ended it right there. And then they look at it again later. Okay. Any of those two options would have been fine, but doing it both basically made them cause this issue. All right. So I apologize for repeating the same mistakes as during the Ring Yisang incident. So it's not just me saying it, it is absolutely their fault for doing this Ring Yisang incident exactly the same. Okay, they did it exactly the same with the offer of the compensation and then immediately taking the compensation away. Wow, damn shit. It's a damn shit situation. But just back then, I was a dispenser and I'm still a dispenser now. So dispenser people, we just keep winning. All right. As long as you're patient, even if shit like this happens, you were going to dispense it anyway. Nothing won, nothing lost. You are still in your lane. All right. So that's why I always encourage people, unless it's Walpurgis or Arknights, you ain't spending shit. All right. You are a dispenser all the way until something very, very cool happens. All right. Okay. So even if changing the strength of a release ID was required, if it was going to be this early, I think it would only have been acceptable if it was through frequent updates, balancing various aspects of the game, including ego gifts. So he wanted a more thorough balancing, and he feels that nerfing a recent ID, despite slow and irregular balancing in all of the contents that he mentioned over here, then that could be seen as despicable to players. Actually, I think it's just that you did the reward, and then you took it all away. But also, yes, you also nerfed two of the most important toys. That's actually all of the important things that you did. If you release some cool tools and then you nerf them afterwards, and then people are like, oh, so they want me to use this tool instead of that tool, it could alleviate the blow. And as long as you offer a bit of compensation, I'm sure people can be inclined to change. But yeah, nerfing both before the tools are out is a bit Yeah, there's a lot of stuff they need to consider here when it comes to nerfing. Nerfing is a no in a gacha game. I know some people might not get it if they never play a gacha game, but nerfing is really a no thing to do in gacha games. As mentioned before, if I'm not able to stop my incompetence before release, I believe that the way as a developer to gain the player's trust is to accept it after the release and tweak things through ways other than changing the ID directly. Unfortunately, in this case, they had to tweak it directly. Then after that, he's sorry for the embarrassment and changing what he has said through announcement multiple times. I once again want to say, please get better PR manager or something. If it's actually Kim Ji-hoon posting this, get another professional to do it. I'm sorry, Kim Ji-hoon, but we are not Twitter. Like, you actually kind of need to be very careful with your announcements here, just because gacha games are very volatile. Yeah, they're very volatile. Okay, so Tasman Sinclair has been deciding the direction and power of Rupture IDs and Egos to be released. Absolutely true. 100% true. And then they are going to continue changing the performance. I understand 100%. Not everyone will understand, but I understand 100%. And I'm sure a few other people will also understand the reason for changing this. Otherwise, we cannot get a future 3-star ID. We cannot use the WoW Ego. Okay? All right. So there are reasons for all of this, and some of them are economical. Some of them are just because they want to introduce a cool thing, and then the cool thing cannot thrive if they do not have this thing removed. All right. This is the case of this old unit that I thought would have like died over there, came back and decided to destroy the world as a crazy OP Talisman Sinclair. Right. So yeah, this is the case of the guy hard carrying the team until this moment, and then they decided, okay, I'm sorry, we have to let you rest, and then they murdered him, nuked his rupture potency, and then let him sit in the corner so that he can make way for a better ID, right? So yeah, this is a very painful situation. I apologize for not staying true to what I said during the Ring Yisang incident. I'm not too sure about the specifics of what he said for ID order. If anyone remembers, feel free to let me know in the comments later. I believe my decisions were clouded by stupidity. Okay, that one's a bit harsh. I think it's just you need someone who actually has some knowledge in the gacha game world before you can make any decisions. Otherwise, you are cooked because you don't have knowledge of what you can or cannot do in a gacha game. So this is definitely a decision where they don't have the world knowledge to go and make a decision. And then we will no longer directly nerf release IDs if they are not bugged. Aha! So this one is actually not bad as a strategy, because in FGO, when Merlin was released, I believe they didn't nerf him and they actually kept him as he is, and then they just kept him and never made another Merlin ever again. And they just keep balance. They just kept releasing characters, and I think once the power creep got good enough, then they maybe considered making something competitive to Merlin. I'm not sure if that's the case in FGO. If you play FGO and you're caught up, let me know if Merlin is still like super meta or whatnot. But I remember back in the day, that was the case for Merlin. They did not touch him at all, and they never ever made another one. So that is a possible way to do it. All right, this is a Merlin thing from FGO. Fate Grand Order. And even in situations where the mistake was so critical that we cannot avoid a nerf, we will not change it immediately and progress through user votes and broadcasts. Now this is great, because this is just more surveys, more playtesting perhaps, right? Getting it through broadcast is interesting, because that means that Kim Ji-hoon is going to stream Mirror Dungeon and ask, hey guys, what do you think about this character? Is it too strong or not? And then ask for players' opinions. I don't know about that one, because asking everyone is going to lead to some varied opinions about some stuff. But at the same time, if you use votes and you use playtesters specifically, right? Playtesters, that could work out pretty well, because I know MiHoYo does very thorough playtesting with specific people, right? So they will be able to get a pretty decent amount of nerfs on the unit in the playtesting area, and then it comes out as a strong unit that doesn't immediately destroy all of the other units around it. Or if it's like a capstone unit, like some insane unit like Miyabi, Skirk, Aquilino, Nuvilette, then they could go balls to the walls and just make it like, wow, this shit is insane. And then they're like, yes, we want it to be insane. And then they release it, right? That could work. Like, that's how it works. Okay, so this is definitely what they need to do. I agree with this totally 100%. All right. The refunds for Faust nerf will be cancelled along with the nerf. This is the follow-up to the initial one. We will be reverting the Faust nerfs, which will cause some issues. just because this initial part here, if you have not been here since the Ring Yisang times, you would assume that this is just the truth straight up, and then you fell for it, and then you wanted to try and get a little bit of extra value because the game straight up told you that you could, right? I mean, the company's not going to lie to you, right? But in this case, the company unfortunately is P Moon, which means that they post first, then they fix later, which is a bit of an issue when it comes to gacha games, because this stuff here, this compensation stuff, is money related. It's money related, so it's very dangerous to do shit like this. So yeah, this part here is gonna cause a bit of problems for them. So that's my opinion of this. It is definitely a problem that they made people, they in a way baited people, because they put false information and then they go and pull and then they try to get the value, but then now they can't get the value. This is not them being greedy, it's because the game told them that they could do it. Well, not the game, I mean the company told them, right? The company told them, so they took it, and then they were like, okay, the company will trust it, and then boom, broke the trust. All right, so it is not greed, it is straight up reading. All right, they saw it, and then they were like, oh, 29th, oh, that means I can get it. All right, like, yeah, it's just that, guys. If you see a deal, you would take the deal. A good deal, you just take the deal. That's just how it is, right? It is not greed. It is really not greed. I've seen some arguments about greed. I don't agree with that greed at all. Okay. So, since the change is still happening for Talisman Sinclair, they will still reset the level and they will still refund the upgrade materials, and also they will be sending 1300 Lunacy and 1 guaranteed Deca extraction ticket. If you manage to avoid all of this drama, by the way, then you would have ended up with this part and you would have no clue what happened here, which is the best. That is the best, because all you need to know is that all of this shit here, if you're a dispenser, none of it mattered, because you can just dispense at your will and nothing really mattered for you. All right, because the character was always going to be good, and the character is always, even if with this nerf, it's still going to be good. It's still going to be the equivalent of something like a Blood Fiend that loves the status and can unga bunga really hard with the status and friends, right? Like, that's just a good unit. It's just a good unit. It will not have been gutted. It was totally fine. So dispensing this character before or after nerf, totally fine. It's just Talisman Sinclair. That's the one that might hurt a lot, because that was a core tool of the Rupture team, and they could have handled it much better. That's all I have to say. Okay, so that is all of my thoughts about all of this. Yes, the video is very long, but I want to make sure that you get all of the information that I have about this kind of situation here and what are all the things that they could do better. The biggest regret I have is that this incident happened before and they didn't fix it at all. They did the exact same thing again. Like, no changes, man. They did the exact same thing again. This is not going to be very good if they just keep doing it and breaking people's trust, and then the CEO himself must go and write a big apology letter and insult himself and blah blah blah. This is not good for long-term stuff, guys. This really isn't that good for long-term stuff. So this is not a video of insulting Project Moon or anything like that. Yes, it is their fault. Yes, they need to fix it. But I still love Project Moon. I'm looking forward to part 3. Faust is still the strongest. I think she's actually still ridiculously broken ass unit. But broken ass units will be power crept eventually or balanced. I am not worried about that at all, actually. I've seen the titans of the past fall. I've seen Venti fall off a cliff, for example, right? That character, gone. I thought he was like super broken. Nah, deleted the next day. Look, the unit can't get sucked. I'm like, no. Or Seeley from Honkai Star Rail. Oh my god, so strong. And then after, like, I think 12 months? And then after that, gone. No! Like, Faust will also have that thing eventually. And in fact, it's canon in Limbus, so that means it's guaranteed. Richie Sinclair, I understand all the reasons, and yet I also understand all the people's pains with losing one of their favorite toys. So it's a shit situation no matter what, but they definitely could have handled it better. Okay, so that's all I have to say as a summary. Thanks guys for watching. If you have your own comments, feel free to comment below. Please don't argue in my comment section. You want to argue, go to Twitter for all I care. I just don't want to see your arguments with each other in the comment section. You want to talk about Limbus Company, no death threats? You want to talk about what they could have done better? You want to talk about whatever adjustments they could have done? You want to talk about like all of the stuff that they made issues with, or your issues with it, or whatever? Just let it all out here. But I don't want to see no death threats. I don't want to see no insults to directly any person, all right? This shit here, they definitely should have fixed it, but at the same time, we are not going to go and insult them or break them or try to make them feel extreme guilt about it, all right? We are not that kind of people. Okay, so that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you guys next time. Bye bye.